What do we call our listeners? Are we doing like ladies, gentlemen, and
Flaggots.
Yeah, welcome, Flaggots, to
Oh, someone please take over for her.
Black Flag Book Bag.
Una, you have to use your tongue when you speak.
welcome everybody to another episode of Black Flag Book Bag. We're doing David Graeber's Debt Part 2 today.
The key to being a good bottom is that you get the top to just do everything for you by being pathetic and fucking it up.
I don't think that's what that is.
I don't think this has anything to do with being a top or bottom, Una. I think this is just you being a dork.
Right. Okay. I don't have notes. Do you have notes? It's chapters 3 and 4.
Yeah, we read chapters 3 and 4 of Debt.
Which are
Also,
called-
I'm Hermes.
I'm Chloe.
I'm Una, but that doesn't matter. We're talking about a book none of us are in.
I'm in the book.
I'm not in the book.
Oh, why
I'm
aren't you in the
also
book?
in the book.
I'm not Malagasy.
I was
Why aren't you?
I was the
I-
barbarians.
I lived in the United States during the 2008 financial crash.
Oh, you're right. I'm the one who decided to call it barbarian law codes because it's the funniest shit I've ever heard. Honestly, I had to stop every time I read that line.
I actually caused the 2008 financial crisis, and I would like to
shit.
issue a formal apology now, you know.
So, chapter 3 is
Hey.
primordial debts,
Never apologize.
and chapter 4 is discipline and punish by Michel Foucault.
That I hate you. That's none of that is no. I did. This has to be a celebratory episode in memoriam to all the time I spent reading Discipline and Punish.
Because it's barely relevant to the text.
Yeah, it's not relevant at all. But you know, I tried to
Yeah.
read Foucault before reading any philosophy or anything, and just you know.
So chapter 3 slaps. 10 out of 10. Would read again. That's my review. Chapter 4, bit short. 6 out of 10 maybe. He's just repeating a joke Nietzsche said.
Pretty much, yeah.
Very, very Nietzsche heavy. I think like what 3/4 of the chapter is just like quotes from Nietzsche or just talking about him.
Yeah, he spends like half of the chapter just like talking about Nietzsche and being like, "Isn't this shit stupid?" And then being like, "Nietzsche probably also thought it was stupid, but we can't be 100% sure about it."
I like to believe that it's a joke. I think much the same way one couldn't possibly read Vedic texts and actually walk away thinking that they thought that you owed the universe a debt that you must repay in like a literal sense.
And I'm
I
gonna
don't-
pretend like I was listening because my audio didn't just stop recording. So that's totally not something that just happened.
Mods, ban this faggot out of character.
Mods, put a typo on their gravestone.
I started recording again, but there's
Yeah, whatever. Mods, add one electron to every atom in their body.
and clap.
I don't see how this helps.
It doesn't. It doesn't do anything. It's funny.
I work in logistics.
The reason to clap is to sync up audio to video.
I'm aware.
Okay, sorry. Back to Graeber. Back to debt.
Debt.
Yes, that.
The B is actually silent.
Is it?
Sh-
I've been pronouncing it debit this whole time.
No, that's a different financial instrument.
Oh.
The thing I enjoy about chapter 3, especially, is pointing out the field of economics gives rise, like, shortly after the sciences and everything start becoming like secularized, you know, post Enlightenment stuff, where everybody's just obsessed with like natural science and making everything into a natural science. You have like Marx trying to turn sociology into a natural science. You have like people doing it with you know, economics with Adam Smith. It strikes my favorite chord, which is people going after enlightenment and post enlightenment thinkers for trying to turn absolutely everything into a natural science. So like Graeber pointing this out for me is just like, ooh, chef's kiss, love it. Thank you, Graeber.
I think I rambled on about that last week, didn't I?
A little bit, but I think you could elaborate on it. I think you said they were cults, but then you didn't really elaborate much on what that meant, because to most people, cult means group of people who get together in robes and hold candles.
Right. So like in Greece and stuff, a lot like the
Like the classical definition of cult.
yeah, like I mean there's like the very original like cults being essentially sects of a polytheistic religion following a specific god. But there's also like, you know, other things you had in like Greece, like, you know, the Pythagoreans and whatnot. They, you know, essentially the school of Pythagoras or the school of Socrates. Those were all, you know, organized as cults in the same manner. And so they also had like you know, like founding texts and sacraments in a way. Like we all know like the Hippocratic oath from Hippocrates thing. And you know, so those were all cults of, you know, mathematicians or doctors or philosophers, I suppose, which that doesn't actually mean anything, especially in this context. What would they have been? Socrates?
Guys who thought about stuff.
Yeah, I guess. Philosophy and like leading up to the Enlightenment's just a whole different beast. But the point is, they at the time had cults, which kind of one could see as something of like the European foundation for accepting the idea of universities from the, you know, Muslim world, where it's, you know, a group of quote unquote intellectuals gathering around a certain amount of kind of syllabus of sorts. So the point is, they operated in ancient times much the same way cults of specific gods did. And so they were like intellectually territorial in a way. Like that was the Hank Green's comedy special where he mentions the thing about the not being able to treat kidney stones in the Hippocratic Oath, because and the, you know, same way like opticians and, or I guess optometrists, whatever, and dentists and whatnot are considered wholly separate from general practitioners who can do all sorts of things. You know, you get specialists beyond that, but it's still covered the same way. Yeah, so like there's a certain designation, specialization between cults where they're, you know, not allowed to overstep the bounds into what another cult is doing. And so that kind of sets the basis for what a lot of like medieval and Enlightenment era and Renaissance, I guess that's between the era, intellectual organization becomes, because it's essentially founded on the same idea that a natural science is a singular belief system, possibly founded upon, you know, the, you know, underlying polytheistic idea of what do they call that, empiricism, but their specific, specific god under that would be, like natural philosophy you get with alchemists, that kind of thing. And it just follows through when you try to create more and more cults that you have to find a field that doesn't have overlap. And so you have to essentially declare when you're founding it that there is no overlap. Like, economics doesn't overlap with sociology because it can't. Those are two different, society and the market are two different things. So our studies of them can't overlap. And, also doesn't overlap with theologians, and it doesn't overlap with mathematicians or physicists because they're just conceptually different. So we're not allowed to touch on that kind of stuff. And, so my point with all of that is essentially that all the Enlightenment did was kind of set the basis for empiricism being injected into every cult of a specific science, where they had to follow the same kind of experimental knowledge of, testing hypotheses and whatnot. But obviously that doesn't completely take hold either, because you get things that are just, taking the cloak of the natural sciences post-Enlightenment, like economics, and to a certain extent sociology did as well. Certainly psychology. But yeah, point is, sciences are cults. We've gotten better about it, but I'm sure anyone who's tried to do, I guess, what they call interdisciplinary study in modern colleges will very, very, very quickly come across the fact that people are still very narrow-minded when it comes to what their field is allowed to touch on.
I've done interdisciplinary studies in college. I did not run into that.
Oh, that's because you went to fucking hippie college in the woods.
This I won't touch on it too much because it is a separate book and field, but this kind of intertwines with what I've been reading lately with Deleuze, which is about the dogmatic image of thought, which is the overt rigid classification and separation of everything into their own neat and tidy categories, where if you analyze them for more than a second, you notice that whatever you're trying to contain within said category overflows it. So this sounds like the other end of that, where like Deleuze is talking about like what's happening currently, like this is the creation and the foundation of like injecting empiricism into these cults. Like that's how we lead to this dogmatic image of thought, which is just, everything has to be labeled and bureaucratized in our brains.
Yeah. Yeah.
Taxonomies.
Fuck a taxonomy. If your cosmology is fucking... Not cosmology. Actually, people don't distinguish much between their cosmologies and ontologies these days, do they? Anyway, if your ontology is taxonomic, you should kill yourself.
You heard it here first, folks.
Object-oriented ontology, more like suicide note. I hope.
That was the stupidest sentence I've ever heard.
Fuck you.
Go sit in the corner and think about what you just said.
I will not.
Time to crate train Una for that one.
Bad kitty.
Look, it's I feel like chapters 3 and 4 are hard to talk about specific content of.
Taxes.
Like chapter 3 is like a bait and switch. It like conceptually.
Well, chapter 3 does a couple things other than the bait and switch. The bait and switch is epic, but it does a couple things besides that. First of all, it talks about it brings up an important point that with regards to the myth of barter, continuing from that, economists are always are saying, well, the reason we still tell this idea about barter is because anthropologists have never told us, a good alternative, and the anthropologist response to that is, well, there isn't a nice little neat coherent universal story as to the origins of money, because money is just the measuring stick we use to compare different things. It's like asking what the origin of math is.
Oh my god. The myth of barter is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like it follows the same. If you listen to people who study like conspiracy theories and whatnot, they always point out like the main goal behind any conspiracy theory is to simplify the world, to make everything neat little stories tied in a bow, and the complicated conspiratorial nature of all of that is just pointing to the fact that at the end of the day, the world is simple and manageable. And so having like creation myths that are simple and manageable as the foundation, it's the same shit. It's a fucking conspiracy theory. Fuck economists.
Yeah, well, what about
You want the
Tower
book?
7, nerd?
Yeah, whatever happened to Building 7?
I just opened a floodgate, didn't I?
I tried to hit the pipe when I said that, but it didn't come through. I wish I had a bong or something ready that would have amplified it. If Yeah, go ahead and edit a bong rip and post there, please.
Editor, add a bong rip.
Edit in a bong rip for us.
Editor. Editor in a bong rip.
Craig, bong rip.
It's just something I want to bring up because, while one singular myth on the origin of money is not necessarily correct, as I said, money is the measuring stick we use to compare things. But it also has other functions too. And Graeber points this out, that not ever that these theories of money aren't necessarily always true, but they do have some merit to them in understanding them. And this one, I think, is one of the more important ones, just because it also gives like an explanation of taxes, which a lot of people don't understand, and that largely taxes exist as a way to give validity to the currency. If the people show up with money, and none of the other stores around you accept that money, there's no reason for you to accept that money. But if the people with guns who come around every year demanding that you pay them money only accept that money as a form of payment, then suddenly that money becomes a very valuable commodity to have around, and it becomes a very valid form of payment at your little store.
To touch on that a little bit, something Graeber touches on is that a lot of places use like a twofold tactic where taxes were required in a certain currency, the state currency, but soldiers were also paid in that same currency. So it ended up as a like logistical loophole to get the citizens to feed and shelter soldiers, rather than having the state to have to like build barracks everywhere and like set that up. So, because the citizens were like, fuck, we need to get this coin, these specific coins to pay the government, or else they're gonna like, sell our children into slavery or whatever. Uh,
Yeah, it becomes the whole thing. Like I said, someone shows up with a coin, and the only reason you would accept it is if someone else is accepting it. And if the government forcing you to pay taxes is the one who'll accept it, that's pretty good reason to accept it. And if the people offering it to you are the government's people who happen to also have the guns, then it turns
well,
the entire uh, like realm of production into a huge machine for the quartering and provisioning of soldiers.
the
You ever,
true.
you ever think
The,
about how like hard it is to sell gift cards?
It is really
no,
hard to sell gift cards.
Yeah.
can't say that I do think about that very often.
Because like Graeber does mention at some point stores and such issuing essentially their own currencies that aren't particularly widely accepted. And, nobody's gonna like end of the day you still want the currencies that are tradable between nations and payable as taxes, but we all know about gift cards, and there are like multinational corporations that issue them. Well, actually, there's really only like two, I think. Maybe one?
McDonald's?
No. No, McDonald's doesn't issue their own gift cards.
Oh, okay.
Only thinking about McDonald's right now. No.
I'm just thinking about them French fries.
Yeah, no. The point is that like, I mean, it's hella illegal nowadays, but like people used to use like food stamps essentially as currency beyond just buying food. Because it's accepted as a form of payment specifically for food. But if you pass it between people, they know that they can get food out of it. And like the same, it's not government backed and whatnot, but like it's still gift cards. And to a certain extent coupons and whatnot. They are, it's just weird. I feel like I don't entirely understand what changed, but as far as I know, in the like late 20th century, that kind of thing was easier to leverage as currency than it is now.
I
And I
believe
know why it's hard with food stamps, but not gift cards.
I believe Graeber touches on something similar with what was it, checks paid by soldier. I
Yeah.
know it's something that we did. It might have been in chapter 2 or 1, but
It was in chapter 3. It mentions the soldiers in Hong Kong making checks
Yeah.
payable by from their accounts at a British bank, which obviously can't be cashed in Hong Kong at the time, I believe, and those being passed around as currency because they're backed by some random person's bank account.
Yeah, and it's less that there's, that's an important myth that's been built up around money, which is that like, oh, there's something valuable behind this, and it's just it's either socially accepted or socially accepted because a guy with a gun is going to come, enforce it.
Yeah, people know that like, the soldiers' bank accounts are good for it because they get paid government money. And so they accept the soldiers' checks. And those get passed around because whoever decides to, send it in for redemption will be able to get it eventually.
But yeah, but like who's gonna do that
Yeah,
at the end of the day? Because
no one's going to do that because they don't need to, because it's accepted as the check itself is accepted as currency.
yeah.
Isn't there a thing with U.S. soldiers where the amount of bonus that the sign-on bonus is usually tied to the price of it's either a Mustang or a Camaro.
I've never heard of that.
You've never
Yes.
heard of that? That was something for at least a while. I don't know if it's the case anymore, but like yeah, the price used to fluctuate too close to the sign-on bonus of the US military, because
That's
it
funny.
was like yeah, it's like hey, sign on and you get a Mustang. Like okay. Do imperialism and we'll give you a fancy car.
Yeah. But yeah.
So now they just need to sign the Mustang and then use that to pay for bar tabs.
Yeah. I back to book taxes specifically.
That's in the book.
Yeah. But the thing I want to say with taxes is like, this is just building off of like chapters 1 and 2 are very how do I say this? Like they were immediately tackling the myth of like international debts. Whereas this one feels much more focused, at least for like the first subheading of it, on kind of the myth of the origin of taxes and the meaning thereof. As governments don't need money themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They need the resources that can be bought with money, but they don't need the money itself because they can issue it.
Governments aren't taxing people because they want, $15,000 out of your paycheck. They're taxing people because they want to give validity to the currency and, to some extent, control the money supply.
Mm-hmm.
They don't
Particularly care about using taxes as a source of revenue because governments are the issuers of money. They make money. They can just declare more money.
I feel like we haven't actually touched on the primordial debt thing yet, and like I'm cool with that.
We'll get there in a second.
That's the next. We're still in the first subcategory.
We're still in the first subheading. Hold your horses. Whoa, we're trying to make content
We didn't
here.
We didn't even mention how Britain's banknotes value is based off an outstanding loan from
Britain's
1694.
Britain's a shitty island backwater built on laws that like predate like the very notion of its own government. That's crazy.
It was the laboratory in which the cruelest form of capitalism was able to take its form.
That was well said. That was beautiful.
Who are you quoting? Cite your source.
It's from something. I feel like I heard that from Matt Christman or something.
Christ.
Ha ha!
I'm like the white Matt Christman. I've never seen Matt Christman. Is he white? I think so. He sounds like a white guy.
Yes.
Someday I'm going to say that about someone that isn't white, and it's going to be kind of problematic.
I'm like the white Obama.
No.
Well, Obama's already white.
Oh God.
He's also black.
Let me be clear.
No, let me be clear.
I'm
like the white Joe Rogan.
I don't know. I just feel like we could ramble on about the notion of value all day. I just feel like there's not much more to extract from the book on it.
Let's get into some myth, baby.
We're gonna leave the rest of that subheading to the readers to read for the listeners to read for themselves.
Yeah, why don't you read an entire fucking library about credit theory?
Let's get into some absolute myth making.
Now hold on. I want to respond to something Una said earlier. And the chapters 1 and 2 got straight into debunking or demystifying myths about things. And And chapter 3, um, because the like state and credit theories of money and things like that aren't exactly like, you know, common sense. They aren't common knowledge that everyone gets taught in elementary school or something like that, unlike, you know, the myth of barter. Those are things that need more explaining, and also they're unlike the myth of barter, there's some validity to them as well, in that they are observable things that actually happened in times and places. Where, so like, when Graeber says that, you know, Graeber says there's the reason anthropologists haven't come up with a nice, clean little story as to the origins of money. It's because there isn't one. Money has come about in lots of ways and in various places, like, and you know, gone out of use and into use and all over, and in different ways. And sometimes it's credit, sometimes it's bullion, sometimes blah blah blah. It's whatever. So he had to describe some ways in which it's done that, you know. And then he gets talking about why states have the power to collect taxes and issue currency. And a lot of people believe in a sort of primordial debt theory, where it's a sort of religious notion that we owe a debt to society, to the gods, to the cosmos, to the world, whatever. And, you know, they're collecting taxes as part of payment of that. And he goes on for describing this for like several pages, and then does an epic bait and switch where he says, "This is fucking insane."
Yeah, the breakdown of it was really great about how like even if that were true, that's not how a debt works. A debt is not infinite, and you can there is like a feasible like payback moment, whereas this would just be like infinite debt
doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's nonsense. It's either slavery or nothing. Mm-hmm. Like I mean it makes sense when you tie it back to like the origin of these states, which are just like, you know, we have fucking literal gods ruling over our states. Like these are absolute kings, or like priest kings, or like any variety. Like most of these states were like the president is God. The president is Jesus, essentially.
Or a nationalist concept that, you know, the nation itself is God.
Yeah. Like it's always been this like bigger, like holier than thou like thing that you know, it's I really like how Graeber ties debt to sin. Like it's the same sort of like metaphysical like obligation to a higher power that you just have to like sacrifice yourself to.
I do find it neat. One of the, he doesn't go this far, but I think it's fun to think about when talking about this like primordial debt concept, that like his sort of initial overview of it as life is on loan to death, and like the subtle implication that the state acts as sort of an intermediary to repaying a debt, that debt in specific, and like it, you know, it's all talked about very economically, but at the same time, if you're using that as your like national myth, it also, like, if you can get the people, the populace, to support that kind of worldview, it becomes very easy to justify a lot of state violence, in particular death penalties. because you're essentially saying the way that you're supposed to repay this debt is, blood sacrifice, and you're supposed to act in benefit of society to repay society, and all this stuff. And like, if the state is the arbiter of that, then they have the right to determine that you aren't repaying the debt as need be. You acted out of line, which you're no longer making your payments. You're supposed to act neighborly, and you're not doing that. So and it's just repossession instead of capital murder. It's they're just repossessing the life that was on loan on behalf of the universe. I think that's fun. I could do something like that if I was in charge.
Una for supreme dictator of the universe.
Yeah, I'm. None of us are separate from the universe, therefore we can't owe anything to the universe. But I think I am, and it's not that I owe the universe anything. It's the reverse.
Yeah. Sorry for anyone who got struck down by the gods for their hubris, but I'm better than them. Maybe even better than the gods.
I do think it is funny that like even under these like godlike like rulers with the during the origin of debt, there was still like jubilees and like they just like wiped debt from time to time, like oftentimes when they took power or like throughout their
That's
rule
chapter
to keep
4
people
stuff.
from. Is it really?
Yeah, it's like the entirety of chapter 4 besides the Nietzsche thing.
But I have in my notes chapter 3, kings would wipe debt free debt peons from time to time. So
You
it
guys
was
need to both
mentioned.
accept that some
in
of these
chapter
things can be
3.
mentioned in multiple chapters.
Exactly.
No, I'm just throwing back the whole thing where like I was trying to be too forward with the plot, and so
Una's trying to know and me.
yeah.
It's a brave new improv tactic.
It works.
Una's negging me.
It's called straight manning.
new improv tactic discovered. Fuck you, shut the fuck up. And
Yeah, straight man it. That's what it is. The one character is being silly, and then the other character's like, no.
Una,
What?
you're not straight or a man.
Yeah, but I can straight man.
Una's
Here, let me explain this book
cat-splaining.
you both read to you.
Una's cat-splaining to
What?
us.
Fuck you. No, shut the fuck up. Go on.
Right, so in
He is a
chapter
brave
4,
new thing.
look,
Yes.
it's mentioned as in chapter 3, but like it's the whole thing of like jubilees being like a necessity that was recreated over time. This comes up more in chapter 4.
Okay, you're right.
You're a debt peon.
Debt,
These nuts.
damn it. Debt, peon.
Debt peon me. Ooh.
Oh.
Oh.
So here's the thing.
Ayo.
Every time I read anything, I end up hating the French more.
Oh, is this about Madagascar?
Yeah, it's about Madagascar. There's just like infinite reasons in the universe to hate the French, and Madagascar is one of them. They literally did the thing. The thing being, send in soldiers with money, demand the people pay taxes in the money that the soldiers have.
And also try to wave shiny new luxuries and stuff in front of people to be like, ooh, you should buy these and get addicted to money.
I think it's so funny because that type of thing, like that's an obvious thing to come up with if you're trying to get a cash flow going as a colonial power. Like, we have luxury goods they don't have, therefore there's no way they could resist the temptation. But it also falls under this fun category of colonialists have no idea that everyone lives without them just fine.
Luxury goods actually suck.
Like, most luxury goods are just fancy replacements for things that people have been making for themselves for millennia. And the only reason why people in like colonial empires and whatnot are easily sold on that kind of thing is because we have this like competitive spirit of like class. So it's really easy to not buy into that shit.
While I do have a lot of qualms with Marx, something I do always, I have always appreciated is his take on, people buying commodities and luxuries in order to overcome the pains of like alienation, like as we like drift apart socially and our communities close apart and just become bought, sold, and subscribed to. Like we just buy things to kind of dull the pain. We go shopping. So like that's always
Did Marx talk about that?
I feel like Marx could have totally gotten in on the AI girlfriend thing.
yeah,
In
Marx
fact,
would
I
have.
feel like he would have written less bullshit if he had like someone to talk to that was close to him, maybe like an Engels type character.
When did Marx talk about that?
I never read Marx.
I feel like it was Grundry's.
I have not read Grundish.
Yeah, nobody would read that.
Anyway, that's very much a Veblen thing.
Biblin.
Fair. Oh, we're gonna get
that is-
so many emails about how I
Oh,
fucked up. If I fucked up.
Nobody
Marx
asks me
and
about
Veblen.
shit.
Oh my god.
I mean, it's Veblen's concept of conspicuous consumption. Buying things you don't need and don't want for the purpose of signaling like class status, to make yourself seem better than the poor's. The only reason to want a shitty, fancy, like luxury good is to signal that you're better than other people for it. That like the quality of products that are made in factories, anything you'd find for sale in a store in the United States, is it plateaus very quickly.
I think it plateaus at Target level.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And pretty much anything above that, you're only buying for virtue signaling, for saying, "Oh, I'm rich. I can buy the expensive watch. I can buy the expensive jacket. I can buy the expensive drinks." To separate yourself from the poor, to make yourself better than the poor, to let the poors know that they can't afford your lifestyle. And that a lot of the modern economy runs on conspicuous consumption, and advertising is designed to get people to do conspicuous consumption. So, that's a Veblen thing.
Well, I'm not going to look
Get
up
owned Marxists.
Marx or anything.
Get owned Marxists.
This is the
Read
thing.
Veblen.
I don't remember which chapter it was in. I think it was 4, actually. He was talking about speaking of people like opting out of market economy. When he mentions the one about walruses, right? And how like they choose not to calculate a debt upon giving someone something. And like I think it's interesting in that like you could make the argument that human nature is social, that like humans are naturally social creatures who want what's best for them in the sense that it's also best for everyone around them. but also humans have overall generally have a tendency, therefore we could call it human nature, to want to calculate, to account. You know, accounting is human nature. And like those are very contradictory. And like I could accept that. Like I feel like those are both very natural tendencies among people, and they are in fact contradictory, and thereby it is a choice in which direction you choose to go beyond that.
People have an inherent concept of self-preservation, but they also have an inherent concept of reciprocity, and a push and pull between those things, as well as uh, a desire to a desire to compare and contrast things, creates a sort of internal struggle. And people don't always choose one way or the other. They don't always choose self-interest. They don't always choose reciprocity.
Yeah, and I feel like when we talk about like capital and whatnot, what's when you stop canceling debts, when the idea is no longer like some vague primordial debt, but a very literal society built on the notion of being in debt is what it like takes to be a person, then like people, the more debts you impose on people, the more debt-minded they'll be, I believe. And so it becomes difficult to view the world through the lens of like non-accounting, non like calculated exchange and such. Like you not viewing your relationships as transactional, it becomes very difficult because you always have to think about the transactions that dictate your livelihood. And so, it becomes difficult to see the alternative, but like we have historical records of people just not giving a shit about that. I personally don't give a shit about that. And like, and so it's whatevs, I think human nature is complicated, and that we build up structures that influence ourselves in return, and we've gotten ourselves in a rut because we're dumbasses.
Hooray!
The origin of bureaucracy lies in the original temples that were massive hubs of the newfound religions, which essentially the shamanic class and the like mystic class of the early hunter-gatherer or pre-civilization tribes used their power to their advantage to grow their power, to eventually grow into the bureaucratic hellholes that were the early temple states, that were the origin of taxes and monetary like credit systems and shit. And I'm getting a little insane here, but like
A little.
yeah.
Is this
but
why you wanted to do video chats with these? So that you could see
look,
us doing
if I can't schizo post on our fucking podcast.
Wait, you can't be saying this stuff because the audio recording isn't going to pick us looking at each other and shaking our heads.
doing the fucking gladiator thumbs down thing the moment you say hunter gatherer.
A significant portion of people were already not hunter-gatherers like 6,000 years before people started doing states and temples.
That's why I said or just pre-civ peoples, like the origin of states
that
and
was an
temples.
afterthought.
It's all
Barbarian law codes all over again.
Look, the priest class was the other way. There's three main elements that come to. I always forget the third one that come into the early states, where it's military bands of brothers, it's priest kings, and it's pastoral Patriarchs? I don't remember.
Shepherd boys.
Editor,
Farmers?
the bong ripping.
More
But
Greek poems about bisexual shepherds now.
I think there's a through line between the origin of the early city-state temples and the like early like pre-civilization like shamans, mystics,
for sure,
like
probably.
oracles and
I
stuff.
mean,
Where it's
social
like,
hierarchy begets social hierarchy. What are you
yeah,
trying to say
it's
with
just
this?
yeah, it's you know, oh, I have power over people because I am the decipherer of the abstract, so I can kind of like mislead people or even just unintentionally like read things that give me more power or like
I
more
think the fucked up thing about
stuff.
society these days is that people who are just freaking insane can't become priest kings.
I know, I have to be like a fucking
And you have to be a podcaster.
I have to work a job.
I can't even be Joan of Arc anymore.
I know. Like, after that long ramble that you did, I was thinking, damn, you'd make a perfect, like, you know, temple priest.
Look at
But
that.
here you are being a podcaster with a job.
Gross.
I thought you brought me on to be your like resident like crazy person, you know?
Oh, we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, we're poking you with a stick right now, don't
Yeah,
worry.
we're poking you with the stick. We're trying to get...
We're trying to make you say more insane shit.
You're making me say crazy things. You're forcing me to need to pee. I don't understand this.
Presses on your belly.
No, my belly. No, my belly.
Oh no, do you have to pee more? Presses again.
Christ.
I shouldn't be drinking more.
Drink the bong water.
No, I don't have a bong. I'm an adult, thank you. I have a pipe.
Damn.
I do dabs like a adult crazy person.
I had a whole prepared like I can't be problematic because for my initial analysis of the whole thing of the what was he talking about, the Bahramic texts and the Vedic texts. We're just talking about the whole like these only track as like actual conceptions of debt if you believe yourself to be separate from your ancestors and from people and from the universe and whatnot. And I was gonna say, like, yeah, like if you take individualism to be just straight up narcissism, and then I was gonna say, like, don't at me, like calling narcissism ableist. Like I will instantly block you, Lamau. And then I was gonna justify myself with the fact that I'm on disability benefits, so I can say shit like this. But also that it's just dumb to say that. But
Moon is also saying insane shit now.
but no, it is like I don't know. People take individualism to mean narcissism all the fucking time, and I don't understand that. Like, it's
Yeah,
It's wave particle
individualism isn't
duality.
following the philosophy of Narcissus.
fucking narcissist. More like narcissus.
Got his ass.
Yeah. Fist bump. But like, I don't know. I don't know why people read it like that. Like I was saying, like it's like wave particle duality, where like you just come up with this extremely bullshit, binary that makes no sense, doesn't apply to reality. You know, a false dichotomy, and then like. You know, and then when it turns out it doesn't apply to reality, you just start saying like, oh, it's kind of both of them, instead of being like, both of these are just insane conceptions that don't apply. You know, there's no such thing as a subatomic particle that isn't a wave, then what's the point of calling it a wave particle duality? There is no individual that is like separate from society in like the modern conception of society being any instance of you being near other people and being defined by them. So, like, you know, there's no individualist society and there's no, like, collective society. It's both. We're people and we exist together. And you know, it's important for the fact that, you know, like, yeah, like, you can't owe a debt, an unpayable debt to your ancestors, because you are also an ancestor in the end.
Your ancestors are dead mostly.
Yeah, I'm not paying shit to them. Not even respect. Like, you say that shit for, like, you know, hot girls on the internet.
Yeah, I'll respect girls who post tits at my Taco Bell server.
But, you know, I understand paying respect to ancestors and whatnot. I just don't understand, like, this notion of, like, owing them anything beyond, like, vague respect.
Yeah, like vague respect is about where it goes. If you are alive, you have done everything that your ancestors ever wanted from you, so
They never wanted anything from me. I don't think they even cared if you were alive.
I think generally speaking, a lot of people out there want, you know, there to be people in the future.
They don't
Historically,
have to be my people.
Historically,
I
people
know. I'm
had
just
kids
that's why I
to-
said they want there to be people, and you are a people. You know.
Oh no, I'm like a separate thing. I owe a debt to society for existing.
I'm
that
not
debt
society.
is-
I owe a debt to society.
Yeah, it's negative $450 a month. That's how much I pay my debt to society.
Oh, right, because you're a cat.
Stop stealing my monster.
Oh my god, you guys are so gay.
It's not gay. It's thievery.
Least gay thing she's done this whole time.
Thievering, being a cat, podcasting.
We need more robber barons.
the gay myth. The gay allegations are sticking.
Shit?
Let's bring back the illegalism podcast.
Yeah.
Also, Graeber brings up.
This is one of the part of the podcast where we endorse shoplifting. Yet again.
Oldie but a goodie.
I think in every episode we just need to remind everyone that we do endorse stealing from the people.
Did you see that one post that was like some like zine or whatever about like how to shoplift well or
Step one, don't steal from small businesses.
Fuck a small business. Jesus fucking Christ.
I know people need to really get that in their heads. That no, they're still a business.
We don't live in fucking medieval France where some guy started up his shop like off of his own, like selling his land and half his family so that he can like make shoes for you. Jesus fucking Christ.
I will say that, like, I understand why they might think that way, because small businesses are qualitatively something different from big businesses. However, the difference does not matter in any real way. Small business owners are actually statistically more likely to want you dead than big businesses.
Big businesses could care less about an individual customer. Small businesses judge you for like your very being born.
Yeah, it's last
From-
I checked, it was small businesses refusing to make gay wedding cakes.
Small businesses
A
are
large grocery chain has never denied. I don't want to say never. Large grocery chains don't ask those questions. Generally speaking.
small businesses. Fuck.
Small
Wait,
businesses.
I forgot where I was going.
Just say it.
Small businesses are just as subject to the errors of capitalism.
Small businesses are
Small businesses.
Small businesses, small businesses.
Is there anything else in this book? Ancient coins valued higher than metal worth. That doesn't mean anything. That's fine. Like, yeah, I mean, it exists both as Boolean and as currency, whatevs. I don't think there's really anything to say about that.
Yeah, Graeber starts off chapter 4 by answering the question posed by in question 3: is money a commodity or is it an IOU? And the answer is it's both. Hooray! That's not really a spoiler because David Graeber opens the chapter saying that. I don't feel bad saying that.
Wait, were we trying to avoid spoilers?
I'm not trying to avoid spoilers, but I'm trying to get people to read the book rather than just come to us for a synopsis.
Yeah, but nobody's doing that. Anyone who's listening to this either is never going to read it or has already read it.
That's probably fair.
Yeah, shout out to the 3 people in the audience. Eve.
Una,
What?
you're in the audience.
I'm not listening to this shit.
What the fuck? My bitch wife.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I don't know. I feel like there's not really much to say about the Nietzsche thing.
yeah.
Like,
Oh, I'm back. I peed.
What the fuck? You
Fucking
left?
Christ.
You didn't let me get my thing out about small businesses. So
All
I
right, what
peed.
do you want to say about small businesses?
I don't remember. I had to pee.
Pretty sure they actually said it. You were just talking over them, which
Yeah,
doesn't
I'll
matter.
just,
'Cause we're
like,
separate
I'll-
tracks.
Yeah, these are recorded on the separate tracks. I'll let you. I'll edit
Just-
out me
just,
saying
you know.
small businesses over and over again.
No, we can just what do you call that?
No, it fits.
Fucking no. What's the thing called? You know, stereo.
AI.
One in the right, one in the left.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dude.
I'll make it work.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good shit.
Mm-hmm.
I think
I did get up to
Fucking-
go pee for the past like 20
Safety
seconds.
Third
It was a
podcast does
long
that a
pee.
lot. Whenever they're talking over each other, they just
Listeners, I hope you know I just peed a lot. It was a big pee.
What color was it?
Pretty clear.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'm pretty clear.
Sometimes my pee is like perfectly clear when I know I haven't been drinking enough water, and I think well, this is either really good or really bad.
because you're drinking a lot of
Nutrition,
pee.
retention.
'Cause you're drinking
Like
a lot
either
of pee.
either my kidneys are working overtime and that's awesome, or my kidneys are working overtime and they're about to give out.
I just drink a lot of fucking water. You know, I'm drinking alcohol tonight, and there's a lot of just carbonated water, just plain carbonated
I'm
water.
drinking seltzer water.
I feel like none of us have the energy to start digging into the whole thing about Christianity and debt. Like, I feel like if we start talking about that, this will go all night.
I didn't take a lot of notes on this section.
Yeah, it's for the best.
I mean,
if you care about that thing, read the book.
Yeah, it doesn't say. It enforces ideas. Whenever I take notes, like you can kind of tell when a chapter's just enforcing because there's not a lot of notes because I'm not gonna write the same thing 17 times. You know what I mean? So like really the short and sweet of it is he talks about Nietzsche and they used to do cool shit like fucking
They used to do debt jubilees after every 7th year.
You know how they tried to clear a little bit of student loan from people recently and everybody threw a little fucking temper tantrum? They used to just clear all of it like every few years. Just like
if this was anywhere from like 2,000 to 5,000 years ago, just every few years they'd just be like, okay, no more.
I would like to point
no
out,
more debt.
just vaguely, from the way jubilees are described, they would not have covered student loans.
Yeah, because it would have only been like it would have just paid for everybody's like house fucking loan or mortgage or whatever.
Would it have not paid for student loans?
No, because that was like the richest people who went to school.
No, because it was just fuck, what's the terms? It doesn't.
Yes.
It covered. Was it covering commercial or not?
No, it was covering non-commercial, which I
Yeah.
think student loans should fall under non-commercial, right? I mean, they didn't have like
universities back then, so it's hard to say what would modern universities fall under.
I just feel like the way that student loans are structured, they would deliberately sidestep that even if we had something like that.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's how student loans, operate now, where it's like you can't even get out of them if you get bankrupt. So I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, they're structured in a way where they are separate from other loans.
I think that in the United States, the step one to fixing the economy would be forgiving all student debt and forgiving all medical debt immediately.
Actually, my step one, and I messaged you about this. I don't know if you saw that. Okay, so we should be able to sue merchants for inflation.
Oh, yeah, I like that idea too.
Yeah, because it is just them overcharging. It is just a debt on the economy.
We brought this up last time that like inflation is not when there's too much money or when there's so many like myths about what inflation is. Inflation is when businesses raise prices.
Yeah, and I think that the people should always retain the right to sue merchants for raising prices.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it should be like, if anything, it should be like a ballot measure or something. You can just fucking set the price for eggs or something.
Yeah, like, so like the last couple years I worked in a grocery store, and in like over the course of like a couple months, the price of like milk and eggs doubled. It was disgusting to watch happen. And I was like, we don't need this to happen. This doesn't need to be happening. Why are you doing this?
Yeah, just go vegan, and then you don't have to worry about that.
No, shut the fuck up.
You know what, I'm gonna say something radical with absolutely no evidence, but I 100% sure it's true. Society cannot run on veganism.
Probably the case.
No, wait, no, wrong. Because cows take infinitely more water and land.
So
Doesn't matter. The actual resource consumption society is built on the fact that we have animal products.
I'm not going to include this debate in the podcast, but I do have some things to say on it as a centrist myself, a vegetarian.
I'm gonna kill you.
So my point of bringing this up was that you made a funny quip about just not eating eggs and milk, but my personal opinion is that those are and always will be daily necessities for society as a whole, and that their prices is a heavy indication of the kind of situation financially of the average consumer. I really was not trying to start a debate about the economics and ethics of veganism.
I'm sorry.
Between two people who agree about it.
I'm sorry.
Made me forget the thing I was actually gonna say.
No, I'm sorry.
We'll read a book about veganism or something at some point.
The thing about let's see, I did have a tangent about veganism, which is I recently saw some discourse about lab grown meat, and I don't like that. Please shut the fuck up. You're all idiots. Lab grown meat, as it is now, I would prefer to refer to it as cultured cells, wherein the cells must be grown from pre-existing material. That is to say, current lab grown meat is not vegan. We currently lack the ability to reliably and effectively and efficiently, as it were, grow meat in a lab without what they call fetal bovine serum, which is taken from baby cows. Hooray. So yeah, I do liken it to the whole arguments about ethics of AI, where you're arguing about a hypothetical that doesn't currently exist and applying it to the currently existing technologies.
They have that with
Personally,
milk now too.
Personally, I would not eat lab-grown meat. I would be much more likely to eat hunted meat than lab-grown meat.
Yeah.
Not because I distrust the health and safety of it or anything like that, but because I distrust the ecological sustainability of growing meat in a lab
I just don't like meat because
or
it's not
culturing
healthy.
meat in a lab. I also, that's another aspect of it for me too, is I've been a vegetarian for 10 years. I just kind of don't like the taste anymore. I had my brother made clams for like a holiday dinner this year, and he wanted me to try one, so I did, and I thought it was okay, but I didn't really need to eat more. I was like, that was fun. You did a good job of cooking
Oh,
it.
I remembered the
But
thing
I
I
didn't
was
really
gonna
care
say.
to eat
Ooh.
it again.
Okay, so the book mentions occasionally etymological arguments for historic ideas and whatnot, and those who know me might think it odd that I don't bring this up very often when discussing the book, given that I am obsessive about etymology. And that's because I think the etymology in the book is dumb and boring.
Oh, yeah?
Um, yeah.
Etymology dumb and boring? No.
Yeah,
Come
okay,
on.
so it does. I don't think Graeber, as the author, is really pushing it this way, but the way it is presented falls in line with this very common, stupid kind of etymology where you assume because the words for something are the same that people thought of them the same way. And to an extent, this is not totally untrue in any case, but people tend to downplay the amount of metaphorical language used throughout history. People are literalists by and large, and it sucks. And so saying that people use the same words for kind of sin and for monetary debt, linking the concepts, while I will believe anthropological arguments for those concepts being linked because it is very clear through scripture and whatnot that they are so, making an etymological argument kind of fails to take root because those were also used as metaphorical comparisons.
I mean, I think the existence of metaphorical comparison is an example of people linking the concepts.
I just mean that like there's a
It,
difference between linking the concepts and equating them.
yeah.
Like there's the parable of the what's it called, the one quoted in the book, the unforgiving
The
servant.
unforgiving servant. Yep.
Yeah, that where debt, monetary debt, is very literally used to compare to the kind of sin and whatnot, and like yeah, like that's that's a metaphor in a parable, but like I just think it's really boring when people are just like, oh, like this word means the same thing as this word, isn't that neat? it's it's boring etymology stuff, you see it everywhere. Yeah, so that's why I don't really talk about it much.
Now, I understand that.
It's not etymology, it's here's some fun facts about words. Anything else to say about this book?
Anything else to say about veganism?
Oh god.
I'm going to edit out the whole veganism discussion, but I am going to leave in references to it.
Oh, that's absolutely perfect.
And so everyone listening can wonder what the fuck the veganism debate was.
Yeah, you can just cut out the whole veganism debate, put like a like 20 minutes later, and and then put my I didn't mean to start a debate.
I didn't mean to start a debate about veganism.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, there's
I'm sure we'll have much more in-depth discussions about veganism and food production and such when we read like degrowth or things like that, or more things more in line with ecology and agriculture.
when we read a cookbook.
A cookbook, baby. We can read Thug Kitchen.
No. No.
Oh, we have to cook all of the recipes. Oh no.
That was chapter 3 and chapter 4 of Debt. Join us next week as we
talk about
tackle.
chapters 5 and 6.
Yeah, I don't remember the names of it, and I'm not opening the book. It's all the way over there. So
We have the book
you'll
right
find
here.
out.
Yep.
Well, it's too late. It's too late. They have
No,
to end
we're
in
opening
mystery.
the book.
The
We're
suspense.
flipping pages
It's
right
a
next to the
cliffhanger
microphone.
episode.
The chapters. Oh no! We'll never know. We'll never know.
There is a table of contents, I swear.
I'm hitting the stop the podcast button.
Yeah, no, you can tell Craig. Actually, hold on. You kind of did a sign off there. Yeah, that's a good enough sign off. See you next week, everyone.
If you're not here, ow!
Good night.
It's delete recording because Chloe hit me once.
Fuck.